First story, illegal Mexican immigrant with a rap sheet arrested for shooting at Border Patrol agents during a Chicago raid. An illegal immigrant from Mexico was arrested after he allegedly opened fire at Border Patrol agents during a weekend raid in Chicago, which also saw protesters lobbing bricks at the feds. Now, here's the thing, and this is just my personal perspective, New York Post. I think when you're lobbing bricks, you're no longer protesters. I think maybe at that point you graduate into rioter territory. I don't think that throwing bricks at law enforcement is
Depends
a
on your
legitimate
aim.
form of protesting.
If you're missing, then you're mostly peaceful.
Lobbing sounds like they're playing catch.
Yeah, exactly. Like they're just lobbing. That was, I can't remember which outlet it was, but when they were talking about Jay Jones, they said he was musing. He was musing about those children dying. Oh, just musing? Okay. The man who was not identified allegedly drove up alongside agents during an imminent raid in Chicago's Little Village and fired a few rounds before speeding off in a Jeep. Now, again, I just want to be clear. When a bunch of people show up to the location where a law enforcement raid is going to occur and start throwing bricks at police officers, and one of them starts shooting at the police, that is not a protest. That is obstruction of law enforcement, and that is a riot.
But that's a gunfight.
That's a gunfight at that point. You're
Gunfight.
absolutely
And
correct.
I want to know why the law enforcement officers were not engaging the suspect.
Yeah, good question. I imagine, and I don't know what the logistics of it were. Maybe they were in the crowd and they were afraid of shooting at the crowd with other people in there.
It doesn't stop New York City cops.
And it didn't stop them from
this is so
murdering
true,
Ashley
Phil.
Babbitt. It didn't stop them from murdering Ashley Babbitt.
That's true.
Where did the bricks come from, too?
That's a good question.
I mean,
Well, these
it
are-
always
well,
seems like there's a pile of bricks.
Well, I don't know if you know this, but immigrants built America, so they have a lot of bricks
They just
lying
have them lying around.
to continue to do the business of
100%.
building our
Chicago
country.
is falling apart, so there are bricks from the brick buildings falling apart, laying around all over it. Like, even if you look at in the picture here in the New York Post article, look at that dilapidated building. You could tell like bricks are kind of falling off from the left of that window.
Do you think they're
easy
just
to
like
find
taking a pick out of the building and lobbing it?
Well, like I'm assuming their homes they're already falling apart. Like half a brick might be on the floor already. But I think throwing things like rocks or bricks. What is it? It's deadly force potentially.
Yeah, of course. You
Against
get someone
police
to have with a brick,
officers,
they can
and
die
they should
easily.
respond proportionately to the deadly force being brought upon them. If they get hit in the head by one of these bricks,
Great sponsor for you. It is 120life.com/Timcast. That is 120/life. Did you guys know that high blood pressure is the number one risk factor for mortality? 1 in 2 adults has it. That's a 50-50 chance you are a walking time bomb. But there's good news. You have the power to take control naturally with 120 Life. 120 Life is a blend of great tasting superfruit juices that can actually help lower your blood pressure naturally. It's formulated with ingredients that have been shown to support healthy blood pressure levels. Trusted by over 1,000 health professionals and used by people just like you who have seen real measurable results. You can try it yourself risk-free with their 2-week trial. Just go to 120life.com and use code TIMCAST, TIMCAST, to save 15%. You can track your progress with a simple blood pressure monitor, watch your numbers drop, and feel the difference. Plus, it's completely risk-free. If you don't see lower numbers in 2 weeks, you get your money back. So you have nothing to lose but those high blood pressure numbers. Go to 120life.com, use promo code TIMCAST, save 15%. Check it out. Thanks for sponsoring the show.
it's not just a scratch. You could die from a brain hemorrhage or what have you.
Well, and this is one of the stories that the boomer generation got one-shotted by was Kent State. And what they never told you is before those students got shot, they were lobbing rocks. They were literally lobbing rocks. Like, here's a general rule. If you don't want to get shot, don't throw rocks at people with guns. I think that's a fair enough. That won't necessarily guarantee you don't get shot. But I think if you throw a rock at someone who has a firearm, like, the likelihood is they're going to feel a need to defend themselves. Now, I also think, of course, a huge part of this is the rhetoric surrounding this issue has paved the way for this kind of obstruction and violence to continue to occur and to worsen. We're told that ICE agents and the people who are trying to enforce immigration law from within our borders are criminals, they even call them Nazis, are Gestapo. And so this is kind of what we should probably expect to see, unfortunately.
Sure. They're also saying some of the rhetoric they're using that they're kidnapping these illegal migrants, which I think the rhetoric is crazy. I think this is a successor movement to defunding the police. Defund the police is no longer popular, but now they're using all that angst and anger that they had in that movement towards ICE and DHS agents around the country.
I think you're totally right because it is the exact same rhetoric. You take something that legitimate law enforcement does and then you apply the label to it that you would apply to it if a citizen who is acting as a vigilante were to engage in that behavior.
People feel emboldened to agitate and prevent DHS and Border Patrol and other ICE agents from doing their lawly prescribed duty. These are law enforcement. They're enforcing the law out here. And it's crazy how often protesters are willing to agitate and get in their way. It's also fascinating that DHS has chosen not to arrest many, if at all, of these agitators. I have seen that they have had DOJ indictments against some elected officials and people who are running for public office. For example, in New Jersey, there's LaMonica McIver. She is a freshman Democrat congresswoman from somewhere in New Jersey. She was blocking one of the ICE facilities, and she put her hands on an officer. She was indicted for that. Then there's also Kat Abuzagala from Chicago, who's running for outside Chicago. She also was received an indictment for obstructing justice. Allegedly, I'd need to look up the specific thing that they're indicting her for. But it seems as though you need to be a popular politician or an influencer to get indicted. If you're just a regular agitator.
My favorite was the guy who threw the sandwich. Remember that?
Oh, yeah, he got off.
He did get off, but they did at least arrest him.
I mean, they arrested him. They put him through the
sandwiches? What a weird
system.
guy.
He had to hire a lawyer and defend himself. So I don't know if the process is the punishment here, which I don't agree that the
the punishment should be the punishment. If you're
punishment
breaking
should
the
be
law, then the punishment should be the punishment.
But if they can't
not the
get to
process.
you, then the process is the punishment, because it's still a bitch to have to go hire a lawyer and the DOJ is coming after you. And I can't imagine it's good for your public record to
Why
even
do you
have
think-
that out there publicly.
Well, why do you think DHS isn't doing enough about this? Why do you think they're not arresting people at the ground
They
level?
don't want to inflame tensions even further. I believe that if they begin arresting people, then like the videos going viral will be of them being physical with protesters, and they're fearful that that might agitate them further. This is their way of like calming the crowd, if you will.
But I just feel
that is not going to work.
Amen.
And it has not worked. We have evidence in 2020, the summer of 2020, when all the riots were going on. There was literal there was a federal building literally under siege for like 90 days or 100 days, and they didn't do anything definitive. They didn't do anything to actually stop the siege because they were afraid of the way that it would be perceived. This light touch with protesters and with the left, it is not going to work.
No.
They will not stop. They are going to continue to inflame tensions as much as they can. It is time for the government, for the federal government, to use all of its authority to put an end to this behavior. End it. They have the authority. They have all the authority they need. I'm not talking about doing anything illegal. I'm not talking about hurting people or violating their rights, but you absolutely can arrest people and stop this absolute trash behavior.
I agree. I think what inflames and emboldens violent criminals is getting away with it.
Right.
If there's anything we've
Yeah,
been taught
absolutely.
by history and also statistics about recidivism rates, if they get away with it, they keep doing it. And this whole, we're just going to halfway stop them. We're just going to half save the country, right? Because we don't want to offend the people who want to destroy it too much.
Right.
It doesn't work. It's never going to work. If you have a revolution, you dig your own grave. And so we're telling these people they can continue to do what they're doing by not enforcing the law thoroughly. And I totally agree with you. The left never felt a need to take this approach with the right. They were going after grannies who wandered into the Capitol after a police officer opened the door for them on January 6th. But secondly, we're getting the worst of both worlds, where it feels like a lot of these White House social media accounts will post these edgy edits, which I think are funny, right? But they are inflammatory to a degree. But then they won't step in and enforce the law because they think that's too inflammatory. So they're doing things to kind of like rally the troops and get us pumped up. Dude, I don't want to see another edit made by some Zoomer with a heavy bass playing while people get arrested. I want you to actually go out and arrest the people who are breaking the law, because that video is going to be a great memory for me when the left takes over because you didn't do enough. And now we're all locked in prison for standing up for the truth and freedom.
They are behaving as if the left is going to have something new to accuse them of, as if the left is not already calling them Nazis, as if the left is not already accusing them of being terrorists. Literally, I saw someone tweeting that the DHS was acting like terrorists. Doesn't matter what they say, and you should not take into account how they are going to respond one bit, because they're already doing it. This is something that this is an argument we make here on the show all the time. You cannot worry about the fact that the Democrats or the left are going to say X because they're already saying it. You can't worry about what the Democrats are going to do if you do something, because they're already going to do something worse when they get into power again. You need to exercise power And you need to stop this behavior. That is what the government that's what the mandate the government has is supposed to do. They're supposed to make sure that this behavior is not allowed to continue to metastasize across the country.
I think, sorry, you haven't gotten much of a chance to talk, and you were going to say something.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, I was raised, I don't know how you guys were raised, but I was raised to not throw things at police officers. And my expectation growing up in the United States would be that if you did, you would get arrested, and it would be serious. But it seems like anything revolving around immigration and the enforcement of immigration laws, for some reason, is just handled in a different way, right? Like, I mean, seriously, throwing a brick at a police officer or it's insane.
Well, I never had to be told that. I was never told by my parents.
You were never
don't
told that?
throw
No, that was
rocks and bricks at police officers.
Well, I'm glad you never did it.
My parents were very specific.
They
No,
just
yeah,
told me to run.
well,
I
this
just
is what happens.
Run really fast from the cops.
Well, this is what's normal is every parent, they know at a certain age they have to give their child the talk. The don't throw bricks at police officers talk, because people will just do that unless they're informed.
But Phil's right. I mean, these people were rewarded all throughout the summer of 2020.
Yeah, they got their way.
Politicians, Kamala's people were donating bail money to arsonists. We saw people get shot in the head, and people were celebrating the death. So you have to show force to help protect people.
The New York City thing where they beat the cop and then they just get released the next day.
Yep.
And it's like, if I beat a cop, I would not be released the next day, right?
No.
But I'm an American citizen here legally and all this other stuff. I don't understand why it's.
You'll be a
Yeah, dude,
terrorist.
people-
They're freedom
Right.
fighters.
Hold on a
Freedom
second.
fighters.
People who were not even at January 6th were charged with conspiracy, and one of the emotionally manipulative tactics the left used throughout the entire persecution of their political enemy process was, there were police officers who were harmed on January 6th.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, you guys care so much about law enforcement. People are literally throwing bricks at cops, and you're sitting there going like, well, it's civil disobedience. They're fascists.
How many feds were at J6?
Yeah, exactly.
275?
Well, here's
Let's
my
not take
question.
away from the patriots who
admit
were
to.
protesting the unfairly stolen election at January 6th.
Based?
Yeah, no, I feel like we like to whitewash. That was those riots were really the voice of the unspoken. What was the MLK line?
Oh, the MLK, exactly.
What
He
was
says
it?
writing is the language of the unheard.
It was the language of the unheard at January 6th. It was. I hate when people try to, sugarcoat this as feds. No, this was a patriot organized riot, essentially. As somebody who covered it,
I saw patriots stopping agitators on video. And those agitators, I believe, are feds who were smashing windows, and people who were there to actually protest, not what these guys are doing, were telling them, don't do that.
Yeah, I'm going with
You're
MLK
going,
on
Fed,
this one.
Fed.
MLK was a
They're
communist.
shouting,
That's a mistake.
Fed. Everyone point at Elaad and yell Fed.
MLK was a communist and a
Amen.
philanderer.
Well, here's the other thing, too. After the 2020 riots, what did we hear every single day as buildings were being burnt down and people were being murdered, and you'd see videos of people crying on camera, why are you doing this? Why are you destroying the business I worked my whole life to build? These pundits would get on television and they would go, riots are the language of the unheard. It's because we are not listening to these people. And then
They
January
weren't listening
6th
to the
happens.
Patriots.
Well, that's
talking
the
about
thing.
the election being stolen, and that was the language of the unheard.
Well, but then, this is so funny because they kept saying the reason these riots are happening is because we're not listening to them. And then January 6th happens and they go, the reason those riots happen is because we were listening to them. We need to shut all these people down, kick them off social media, throw these people in jail. So the whole thing's nonsense. It's ultimately just their friend-enemy distinction. They're saying we like the rioters. We don't like the people who are opposed to them. When those rioters are on our side, it has nothing to do with tactics. So it's unfortunate. It's horrifying. And the last question I have before we move on to our policy expert, Shane, who's, Shane, as you guys know, is a think tank guy who's spent a lot of time in the halls of academia working with these prestigious institutions. I just want to ask you.
Oh, think tank. I thought you said
Shane
fish
is
tank.
very much like an establishment guy is what I'm trying to say. Shane is like our establishment voice piece
I
we
get that a
have
lot,
here.
yep.
And so I want to hear, what is your policy prescription? What would you do about this, about people throwing bricks at cops?
Oh, man. Well, the people throwing bricks at cops, they got to go to jail. I mean, they got to take them away. A lot of these people are radicalized in the universities. Mm-hmm. When I was in college as a professor.
Of course, yeah.
and as a student, I saw Marxist ideology being bashed. These kids were being bashed over the head with it. Mm-hmm. They were saying communist China is great. The Cultural Revolution is a good thing. You have to tear down the old institutions to put in your new institution. And they hate capitalism. They hate anything that goes against their cult. Mm-hmm. So these people think they're doing the right thing. Like I'm saying, they think they're the freedom fighters. They think they're the heroes, and they're also bloodthirsty because they do look at the Cultural Revolution as a good thing, which was an insane bloodbath, right? Chopping heads off of people who were speaking out against the establishment there.
They're the new Jacobins. They're the modern Jacobins.
Yeah.
So you think they need to be arrested, locked up?
If they're doing stuff like violent,
of course.
I'm all for protesting, but this is rioting.
I agree.
If you're terrorizing citizens and you're hurting police, you gotta be punished for sure.
I agree. So, and this is coming from our establishment.
Is that a good establishment
Well,
answer?
the reason I want to ask is I'm asking the establishment guy. Now, as you all know, we have Elaad, who's kind of an outsider. He doesn't trust the institutions. Very into conspiracy theory. Really is always talking about
He thinks the moon is fake.
Thinks the moon is fake. We need to end the Fed. We never went there. Elaad is someone on the opposite end of the spectrum. What do you think needs to happen to people who throw bricks at police officers?
Yeah, I think they need to be arrested, detained, and then held to the fullest extent of the law.
Which is crazy. So we have two people from complete opposite ends of the spectrum with respect to approach who are saying these people need to be thrown in prison. Why? Because it's common sense. People throwing bricks at cops need to go to jail. This is insane. Why do we have to talk about this?
I was saying that all through 2020. There should have been more to take these people off the streets. Instead, we saw. I was in New York still, near Newburgh, New York, and there were people bashing in windows, going crazy. And that city is so captured by a lot of leftist ideology. The small businesses who were destroyed, had their windows bashed out, would put up plywood the next day saying, "We forgive you."
Oh my gosh.
Yep. And that wasn't unique to just Newburgh, New York. You could see that all across the country.
And before the protests, they were putting up signs saying, we support BLM. Please don't break my window. Please don't smash my window. Yep. Yeah.
Black lives still matter.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.